In lesson 19, we go back and use the distributive property again. And this time we're going to apply that strategy or that property to division problems. And we're going to use arrays to help us model them, just like we did when we first started using multiplication along with the distributive property. And let's take a look at what those problems look like. So let's start with a problem that's really familiar to us. And that problem is going to be 20 divided by 4. Now, many of you may just know this answer already because it's one that we've done a lot this year, but I want you to follow me here as I walk through the steps of the problem. And then we'll do something that are a little bit more complicated after this. So I have 20 things separated into groups of 4, 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20. Now, I recognize that you could now solve this problem. One of the strategies we've already learned this year is by counting the number of rows. And you could see that the answer is 5. Let's get that right out of the way right now. But the reason we're teaching you this strategy is not so you can solve 20 divided by 4 equals 5. It's so that you can eventually solve much larger problems involving bigger numbers and problems where it wouldn't make sense to draw an array. So we're just showing the array here today so that you can have a picture of how this strategy works in your brain, but it's not a strategy that you're going to always use, meaning drawing out an array as you increase the level of complexity of the work you're doing. Because again, if you're dividing really much larger numbers, it doesn't make sense to draw an array out for all of those. But it does make sense to use this break apart and distribute strategy with division. So let's show what that might look like in this case. So maybe I don't know 20 divided by 4. But I do know a couple smaller facts. And so I might say, I'm going to split this right here after the third row. And I might say, well, I do know that 12 things, because there are 12 x's above my line here, divided into groups of 4 equals 3. And I do know that 8 total things, I have 8 x's here below the line, 8 total things divided into groups of 4, I do know that that equals 2. Well, notice my 3 and my 2 there. If I add those two things up, they equal 5, which you'll see is the same. That's a sad looking arrow there. A 5, just like we put for the quotient initially. So you can do the same thing that you do with multiplication, essentially, just that you take the total number of things and divide by the number in each row to get the number of rows. Or you take the total number divided by the size of the group to get the number of groups. And when you add those two things up, those two sizes of the group or number of groups up, you end up with your quotient. Here's 5. A lot of words there, I understand. Sorry about that. Let's try another sample problem. Watching me do the problems is probably better than listening to me talk about them sometimes. I'm going to pull one straight from your problem set from today. So if you have that problem set with you that we worked on in school, we would have already gone over this problem at this point, but pull it out and look at it and go through it along with me here. So that problem was 36 divided by 3. So this is a fact that we haven't worked much with this year, unlike the one that I just showed you. So I need to make groups of 3 until I get to 36. 3, 6, I'm gonna add a row up here. 9, 12, now I'll go back here. 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30, 33, and finally 36. So this whole array could show me 36 things divided into 3 groups. Now, I can go and break it apart so I can solve and find my quotient. And because this number is above 30, I'm gonna go and break it at the 30 point, because I know that if I have 30, I have a 10 stacked in there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just like 5 stacks, 10 stacks are easy to work with. So anytime I can get one, I try to. So there are 30 things in here. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. 30 things. I'm dividing them into groups of 3, which has given me 10 groups. And just like we learned the other day, I know that because 3 times some number equals 30, I know that number is 10, right? So that's how I know that the quotient must be 10. So that's the first part of my answer. So I have 10 plus some other amount that's going to go up here. Now down here, I have 6 total things, 6 x's, divided into groups of 3 has given me 2 groups. And now I'm going to take this and add it to my 10. So 12 plus 2 equals, or I'm sorry, 10 plus 2 equals 12. I got ahead of myself there. So 36 divided by 3 is the same as 10 plus 2, which is 12. That's 10 groups of 3 plus 2 groups of 3, or 12 groups of 3. And that's how we can go ahead and solve that problem. And again, I understand that you could have just counted the number of rows and solved it quickly. But if you're doing that, while you're going to get the correct answer, you're going to miss the point of the distributive property as it applies to division. So even if you know that you could do this a quicker way just by counting, please go through this exercise. Please try to understand how to use the distributive property for division, because it will help you in the long run. Might take a little bit longer now, but I promise it's going to help you in your future as a mathematician. So let's do 27 divided into 9 groups. All right, so we have 27 things into 9 groups. Or groups of 9, I'm sorry, groups of 9. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. $18. $27. Okay, so maybe I don't know 27 divided by 9, but I do know some other facts that I can apply to this. So the whole array shows me 27 things divided into groups of 9. These top 2 rows here have 18 total x's. I've put them into groups of 9, and as we can see, that makes 2 groups. Remember, 2 times 9 equals 18, which is how I know that 2 goes there. And then down here, I have 9 total things divided into a group of 9, leaves me with 1 group again. I know that 1 times 9 is 9. So my quotient is the same as that missing factor originally. See, that lesson that we just did a few days ago is definitely really well connected to this one. So now I can take my 2 quotients here, my 2 and my 1, and add them up. And when I add up my 2 plus 1, I'll do it out for you, but it's clearly 3. I find that 27 divided by 9 equals 3. So that's the main point of today's lesson. It's the distributive property is not new to you, but using it with division is. As I've said a couple of times, I understand that you can just count the number of rows to solve these, but if you do that, you're going to be missing out on the point of using this strategy. The picture is just there to help you understand, to give you a good visual, so that when you're doing more complex problems later, you can sort of have a good foundation in what it means to be using the distributive property. And so please don't just count the rows. Please try to go through this exercise and understand how you can break apart one large division problem into 2 smaller division problems and add those quotients up to solve. I say it every time, and I'll continue to say it every time. If you have any questions, let me know.